so
Good to
excited,
see
guys.
you too
Like,
as well.
I've had such a beautiful morning already. We just had a beautiful meeting with the CMO of Mind Valley, and she came to help us
Oh,
with the youth events. And we had a couple sales guys from like Dean and Tony's team there to kind of guide us as well. Uh, and then I jumped on a call with a friend from Dubai who about the big mining project to prepare me for how we're going to integrate old strategic energy that is used, that is already on the ground, that is existing, and transition it into new energy or new systems, because it's like the bridge of what's happening with the mining. And he's like, he just really gets how we can really position it strongly for the community so that people are excited to not only invest in the projects, but also get very inspired and empowered to feel safe and secure in putting their money into something that is fruitful and for the future. So yeah, I'm really excited. Like a lot of good people just are showing up out of the woodworks. Like, hey, Eric, we like, and a lot of these guys, they were like 6 or 7 years with me in the past at UPW, or, doing things around the world, or watched me. And now they're seeing the level of groundedness, and they're just coming out of the woodworks and saying, hey, how can I help? What can I do? How can I support? And it's so exciting. It's so exciting.
Super cool, man. Happy for you
yeah.
It's
I
yeah.
I visited Mind Valley
or for
in
us.
Malaysia before. Yeah. I visited his office, Fajan. Yeah. He he has a superwoman in his lobby. Yeah. Like a statue.
I love
Yeah,
it. So you're
A
you
mannequin.
you're you know Vision?
Yeah. Well, I met him once, but we went to his office actually.
Nice. I
Yeah.
love it. I haven't had the pleasure of meeting him yet. I know Marisha, his CMO, very, very well.
Mm.
She's really, really been supportive, a lot, like really helpful.
Yeah, like I think Fashan also studied from Tony, right?
Mm,
A long time ago. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, we're all students of Tony.
Yeah.
except me. I haven't went that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
I think
You're
I'm
on
you
gonna
are
meet
like,
Tobin.
spiritual role.
I'm gonna meet. I'm gonna meet him in private. I know. We're gonna hang
yeah,
out with Tony for sure. Like
yeah,
Oh.
yeah. It's
that's the
it's
way. That's the way. We on the same page, like we're shifting the world, we're steering the world together. So I think, and sooner or later, we're gonna hang out with the many beautiful people around the world. We already do, but I mean, like, because we are taking over, like what they have started, literally. So we are like we are the same coin, and we are both sides of it. Like one starts, one takes over, one like that's how I see. We
Mm.
are here to do our vision, our purpose, and they already doing there. And like
Well, the one thing I love is like we stand on each other's shoulders, right? So it's what I love is that it's not about competing anymore. It's about standing on each other's shoulders and supporting each other to continue to grow. And I believe that that's such a key component of what we're here to do, because in the old paradigm, when competition was there, it was like, hey, yours versus mine. And I'm seeing in this paradigm where like we're seeing how we can co-elevate, co-operate, co-support. And this is what I get really excited about, because it's not about any one person. It's about all people rising as one, as together. And as a result, it gives the capacity for more people to add their value, add their wisdom, add their expression, and really shine, because there's room for everybody to shine, in my perspective.
Mm.
uh-huh, uh-huh. How are you, Elaine? I didn't heard
Good.
about. Maybe I missed. Maybe you were sharing already.
Oh, I just told Eric that I did the World Walk for like Joe Dispenza World Walk on Sunday,
So cool. So
and I
cool.
did so the entire world was walking at the same time, right?
Yeah, I did it
And
once.
also
I did it once as well.
okay,
Twice.
and the night before I did gong bath. You know, if you know what gong bath is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, and then yesterday when I was doing a facial, I had like an astral body out of body experience like while I was doing facial. It was really weird. I don't know if it has to do with, my frequency being higher or something. But yeah, it was, and then I had visions of yeah, like just pictures in front of me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Now, when you talk about visions, I got some visions yesterday, and the first time I got the vision in 3D, like I would be seeing other in like 3D. Like it's interesting because it was not 2D, but that's what usually I would get. But this time was with the depth. I could see the rounding shapes, and it was some kind of planets or some yeah, it was not in this planet. I was somewhere else for sure. Now when you share about it, yeah, I trip quite a lot on my third eye as well. sometimes sometimes when I close my eyes, the visions becomes coming so strong that I need to double check if my eyes are closed. So I check with my hands. Okay, it's closed. Okay, I'm tripping now, and I without anything, just by closing my eyes.
Wow.
Not
Do you
always,
do
but
you
it
do you
happens.
meditate? Like, do you practice?
Uh, yes, in some way, right? So in my way, I would say I don't meditate. So I don't meditate, but my day is pretty much full on meditation. I am present as much as I can, and the only practice I keep on doing is breath work before I sleep. You just breathing, calming my down, and then just going to sleep.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
How about
But I
Eric?
used to do a lot like Dr. Joe Dispenza's a lot, and
Hmm.
like yeah, days and weeks, I guess.
Wow. Okay. So
Yeah.
you're up there already. Yeah.
Somewhere, yeah.
How about Eric?
For me, meditation is like right now for me is a meditation. But specifically focusing my energy within myself has been something that at the beginning was something that I used to do almost like an hour and a half every day in the mornings after my workout. And as I was able to bring and ground my meditation to the ground, meaning bringing what my thoughts, my actions, my results started to come to fruition in my reality, I started to realize that the meditation is my life. So as I was able to integrate my meditation into my reality, I started realizing that, wow, I'm genuinely from my meditation creating my reality. And the more that I started to realize this, the more I started to understand that actually when we were in Brazil, I spent a lot of time identifying and understanding the importance of Sananga. So the importance of Sananga was such an integral component of, okay, how are we actually opening our eyes and using our eyes as an important responsibility of what we're creating in the world. And so when we open our eyes, moving with that level of sincerity and devotion is something that I've discovered. It's not about what we do with our thoughts or our eyes, but actually how are we moving through life. And so this has become such an important part of life for me in my meditation and how we're continuing to move forward. And so now it's like I wake up and is like, oh, okay, thanks for all that information from the dream. Great teacher. This is what I need to know. Remember, how many times have I sent you a message, Elaine, like, oh, I thought of this. Let's go.
Okay.
You know.
So you got a
So
message.
so I really take the meditation from my sleep. I take the messages from my sleep, and then as a result, it starts to create a lot more meaning in terms of how to integrate. So yeah, that's been a constant and never-ending journey, and the walks in nature, and the time, the silent time that I do spend here in prayer and things like this are always a constant meditation. So
Mm. There was somebody who popped in and left.
yeah, Felipe, he popped in, but he didn't. I mean, he probably just checking into what's going on here, but it's fine. He's another plat.
Oh, okay. All right. Is he in a BTC? All right.
He's in one of the groups in Date with Destiny. What I'm noticing too, a lot of people are very curious. They jump in and out, they have curiosity, and then they make their decision, right? Like, I find that if somebody is not open to staying, then they're not open to staying. It's their decision. It's totally fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Permissionless coming in, permissionless leaving. Fuck it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find Tony's work, like in the early days, it was very like go-getter kind of thing. But then later, maybe because of Sage, like he also got very spiritual, right? And brought in kind of like Mastico and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I love Masterco. I had a great interview with him. I interviewed him
Oh.
on my podcast. And he's like so totally grounded. And I love it.
Mm.
It's like he calls it practical spirituality.
Practical.
So
Okay.
cool. I love it. I love it.
I actually knew about him way before he got integrated into Tony's community. Like I was doing pranic healing like as another stream. Yeah. In Hong Kong. Yeah. And LA.
Nice.
Yeah. Um but yeah, interesting that those two kind of came together.
Tell us more about you and pranic healing, Elaine.
Oh, I got into it because some friend was practicing it, and it was quite interesting. I think Master Co's master is Master Chow Kok, so he already passed away, right? But I think he started in the 60s or something, 1960s or 70s, yeah. And so compared to Joe Dispenza, like I think Joe Dispenza is more current, like with science and all that. But during Master Chow Kok Sui's time, there wasn't a lot of these technologies. So what he did is I think he hired a bunch of clairvoyant people, like who can see energies to draw out what they saw, right? So it's a little bit more spiritual in that way. But I think the Twin Hearts meditation really works as well. Yeah. Um, but Joe Dispenza's stuff is more modern and current and more accepted by some scientific community now. Which I think like 10 years ago, like nobody talks about these things, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the bridge between science and spirituality is coming closer and closer, and the gap is getting smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
It's very evident and very clear. Science, spirituality, mathematics, all of it is like, Dr. Edward Grant, Robert Edward Grant. Sorry, not doctor. He him and I were talking about like the mathematics of spirituality almost 3 years ago when I was living in Dubai, and it's fascinating how much of that evolution starts to continue to come forward. Like he's a philomath, just in like really intentional, and it's interesting how different minds from different perspectives can come together and come towards the same conclusion, because at the end of the day, it's actually all the same conclusion, because it's all consciousness. It's all pure source consciousness.
Yeah.
So whether you're talking about mathematics or religion or spirituality or science, or at the end of the day, it's all the same. It's just different ways of putting it into a doctrine or a story.
Yeah, yeah. And I feel like studying with the different gurus, they all come to the same point, which is interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that this is the thing. This is what our current generation and our responsibility is in this generation, is to actually bring it all together. And that's what I love about what we're doing and how we're integrating into the new infrastructure and new economy, is that literally becomes the vehicle to bring it all as one, as a team, as a family. Because then everybody that chooses to walk that path, they have a vehicle to actually sustain themselves. And that's what I believe Bitcoin really does. The Bitcoin infrastructure, the Bitcoin community, it gives the people to the people sovereign opportunity. And if they choose to walk the path of sovereignty, now they have a vehicle to fully express themselves.
Right. How do you currently spend Bitcoin? I mean,
so
Lightning wallets, or
I don't actually, right now, I don't really use Bitcoin at all, because all I'm doing is building the infrastructure and focusing here on how to bring in more energy. And so my devotion is focused on building the infrastructure and using my energy to actually activate more people to bridge from the old economy into the new economy. And so if I do go spend Bitcoin, it's at my barber's, or I transfer and teach him about how to use the wallet, and then I transfer it to him. And so this is something that for me has become, okay, now that I know I have Bitcoin, now I need to transfer it to somebody else. And how do I learn to do that? In making sure that I am doing that, where I'm integrating them, so educating them prior to receiving it is a big responsibility as well.
Yeah. That's what I'm kind of doing too. Yeah, with my hairstylist, and actually my employees already got their bonuses in Bitcoin a few years ago. So
cool.
Yeah, now it's gone up like 10 times already.
Perfect. That's what we want. Like,
this
that's,
was
I think,
$8,000. Yeah.
That's important, I think, to like this distribution. That's what is important. At least that's for me. I feel this distribution, cultural distribution to people, who artists and creators, and like literally handing over in their hands to do what they want to do, and then they need to figure it out, the ways how to use it and implement it. And so I think it's because I'm not a technical guy. I'm not gonna go and bring solutions to the shops, but I do with my way of just handing over Bitcoin to somebody who doesn't have, but I know they are Bitcoiners by core. They are here to do something beautiful for humanity. So it's and yeah, like that's so. For example, I'm raising funds now for building pink rocket here in Portugal, and I invite people to rocket. Yeah, like art sculpture, maybe 8 meters tall, with the DJs inside, and lights, and beautiful sculpture. And I'm raising funds for whoever who's gonna chip into that. We're gonna have a Pink Fest coming in the end of May, and after I'm gonna gift that wallet, the whole wallet with the Bitcoin, to the landowners. so they can do whatever they want, you know. They can continue living their dreams and bringing people to the land, and they have some funds to fund themselves, and that's one ways. Other way, I would buy Bitcoin, like I bought some Bitcoin for, I buy Bitcoin per person sometimes. So if somebody gives me a gift, if I feel like giving a gift back, then I buy 256,000 satoshis, whatever the price is. But that's kind of per one human if we distribute 21 million number. And I tell them that you have now Bitcoin. You can get that Bitcoin after 10 years. So people can prepare themselves. It's gonna be more, and they're gonna educate themselves. No, they can do it on their time. Once they're gonna send me their wallet, I will transfer it. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, what do you think about all the IP stuff? Like, is it gonna, this IP thing is gonna go away, or like with arts and design, you know, it's like already getting really
what is IP stuff?
Oh, intellectual property. Or there's not going to be intellectual property anymore, or I mean, even with AI, it's all kind of.
I mean, it should by foundation of Bitcoin, it should not be such thing at all.
Yeah.
Because it's very simple. Developers who developing both Bitcoin network and who developing Noster, it's the same crowd, right? And the punchline for them, open source everything. So even if you're gonna protect your data, at some point somebody was gonna pull it out anyways and put it publicly, because data it should be transparent. We cannot, it's nothing we can hide, or nor we have fundamentally right to hide any or privatize any data, because it's not ours. It's the same like with the art. When an art piece comes from me, it's, yes, I painted it, for example, but it's not mine. It's not for me. So if I start protecting like things like this, or new technology, or new inventions, then I'm limiting, you know, by all kind of bullshit, I'm limiting it from doing its purpose. So fundamentally, I think it's a hoax that we can protect some data, or we even should. Transparency, again, is one of the Bitcoin principles. There is no point.
Right.
Like, what's the point?
Right.
I have no idea what would be the point of trying to limit the information, since we already living in the time that's been controlled for decades and ages. So I think the principle is very clear, and that's going to be unstoppable. Like the people who are developing Bitcoin and Noster, they are not genius, they are super genius, you know, and they don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck. They're gonna do the principles. They're gonna die for principles. We're gonna pull this shit out, and we're gonna put it publicly, and we're gonna code it so nobody can ever, you know, protect it. So it's something we, like, human nature has a tendency to hide for the reasons of control, manipulation. It's like I just recently figured it out that some laws have that. Imagine that I was having this conversation with ChatGPT about legacies, and then it told me that some laws have some secrecy. And how can be a law that is not public? Like, it doesn't compute my mind. Like, how can we agree on the game of the rule that has something in the rule that is hidden? So how can I know what game I'm playing? Yes, I like, there is some cases, for example, the privacy of the human, like human rights, or like that's another story, right? Individual. But I think yeah, transparency is non-negotiable. It's gonna be period.
Right. Well, like for example, any kind of have you played with Sono AI? Like you put
No,
one sentence in and it creates a song, like AI, right? It creates a song, the lyrics, the
yeah,
singing, and it's pretty good, right?
yeah.
So some of the I think artists, the musicians are kind of demonstrating because I guess it's taking from existing, like learning, the AI is learning from existing stuff, right? So I don't know, like because the whole structure of the current world is built on IP laws and like for artists and creators, they have like movies, there are intellectual property stuff, right? So I don't know how it's
But
gonna
that, but that's
come.
but that's what I love about Noster community, because people are already publishing books directly on Noster,
Mm.
and they get more rewards ever than they would try to release the book, or the contribution of the people, because value thirst. So that's, I think, the very beautiful principle, which I really admire, and I walk the path of that. Value thirst, and then the universe will find a way how to take care of me. So any of those protections, securities, insecurities comes, from traumas, from like unsafety to live in the world. But Bitcoin already changing that.
Wow.
Bitcoin standard will clean those insecurities in people, because
Mm.
it's not a like by and simple. It's gonna be at some point sooner or later, when person goes in the rabbit hole, it's gonna be like, oh, it's not about me anymore. So fuck it, just take it. Like Rafa, what she did yesterday. Our friend, with we have a friend Rafa, and she was working on the papers for, or like she's a computer scientist and AI specialist, and she yesterday released her essay that she was working 10 years on, and she released it for Bitcoin because she found Bitcoin. So she doesn't have money, she really challenges the world to become a better, and she risking a lot, and she just shared, because of the Bitcoin principle, she just put it out, because information needs to go out and it needs to do the work. We cannot limit, fundamentally, as a creators, I think we should not try to judge our work, our creation. We cannot, period. It's not for
Mm.
us.
Yeah, I guess as long
Yeah.
as you share and people like it, they will give back, right?
It's not about, so like, yeah, exactly. So I think if people get value, then
Yeah.
fundamentally we all want to give. And maybe you have completely different abilities to give than I. Maybe I can give one Satoshi. Maybe you can just like, fuck yeah, I give you one Bitcoin. And that flips the whole thing. Just imagine being the artist, like trusting that universe will find its way how to reward. And there is
Mm.
also like this very well-known person. His name is Gigi in Bitcoin community, and I listened to some podcast where he talks about when he started publishing books, and everything based on donation. He was laughing as well. I receive much more than I would ever would even expect. People are genuinely much more generous than we think.
Mm. You know what I feel is I think there needs to be a way to visualize this new paradigm, where I think, a lot of people talk about Bitcoin not thinking it's a new paradigm. Especially in mainstream media, talks about Bitcoin as the alternative investments, right? It talks about like you can have, real estate, stocks, bond, treasuries, like, and
Yeah.
then Bitcoin is like 1% of that. Like, I think that's how the world, many people perceive what Bitcoin is. But I personally, I also agree. I think it's fundamentally changing the whole infrastructure of
Yeah.
how we operate, even, right? Or relate to each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's not being communicated enough, right?
I think it's not. I think there is a reason and timing for everything.
Mm.
And I met a lot of Bitcoiners already.
Yeah.
And yes, not many people are aware about that as a philosophical thing, you know, that is the philosophy of life. And the crypto side is cryptography. It's also, you know, been here, and it's a part of it. But the knowledge and information again is the power, is the energy. The peer-to-peer is the motivational drive,
Mm.
the willingness to support each other. So the culture, that's why I'm focusing on culture development. When I meet new people and I talk about Bitcoin, the first thing I got is denying very
Deny?
often. Yeah, and that's because they think it's crypto. And of course they confirm that in the first sentence, it's crypto. I don't have money. I don't want to do it. And I'm like, listen, crypto, put aside, study first, go into information, go into knowledge, you know, find your passion about, like explore, and that unlocks the integrity in everyone. Like Bitcoin changes people, not because of crypto. Yes, crypto side gives a security, gives a protection for our wealth and in energy. Yeah, so it's a yes and
Yeah, it's yeah, I think it's there's a communication issue right now with this whole Bitcoin thing.
And it's gonna be like this for hundreds and thousands of years, because it's a mind fuck. It's gonna fuck everyone's minds. Period. That's what it does. It fucked my mind until I went back into my heart. We spoke about last time. I was chasing for that security, for that, you know, blinking possibility. And what I discovered, you know, that is like, oh, it's operating from the heart and from integrity. It's nothing like as I told earlier, like I start sharing my Bitcoin. why do I need to have it when I have a community, when I have people that needs to use it? You know, like we need to develop. And you completely right when you say it's not communicated out, but I think it's not the time yet. Because still a lot of minds are searching for that blink opportunity, and that's why they talk about, like, yes, it's a store of value, yes, there's no second best, and so on and so on. So like that's what the minds are searching for. So if I'm gonna start talking about philosophy and spirituality of Bitcoin, it's maybe still too early.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
And it doesn't have to be, but I'm just like, you know, like it's a yes and I think everyone will discover its own path, and everyone will do what we have to do, you know. I'm literally not interested in figuring it out technology anymore. I'm learning from technology what the peer-to-peer means in real life. I'm learning what is proof of work in my reality, what is node, what is the miner, but in human, you know, in human characteristics, because it's a copy of our DNA pretty much in Bitcoin, as I think you said at some point.
Right. Interesting.
I'm curious, Aline, because last time we talked similar, and you left the conversation with this kind of like shocked in some way, like when we were talking last Monday. You were like, oh, like okay, like I go and somewhere, like you were very shocked in some way.
No.
I don't know if you remember.
Well, I guess I did get into Bitcoin more because of the money part, but you know, as you go in the rabbit hole, you know,
yeah.
And there are also talks about, hey, it's like an ascension, right? Like how humans are going to another dimension where like the old way of working is kind of crumbling right now, and we're in the middle of this whole mess, right? You know, where there are old establishment
it's interesting.
People like
It's very cool to be to to be an observer how how Bitcoiner becomes a Bitcoiner. It's a very cool process of witnessing that whole transformational journey, because somebody is running like, yeah, I'm gonna do this and gonna do that, and then you see a couple years later, after consuming all the information, the person is sending pictures how he's growing potatoes and carrots in the garden, like that flip back to nature. Like, so because I think we natively were running for that success, that to make it, yeah, to make it secure ourselves, but because of the loops in the system, it's just not possible to secure it anymore. And once we had that, and I saw that Eric was also like putting some seeds in the ground with the grandmother and mother the other day. So yeah, it's bringing back people. That's why it's humbling. That's why it's humbling.
That's something that
like,
nature. That's something that has been happening in my family for
yeah,
generations, right? So
yeah,
has been my grandma and my mom and have been doing that, and my great grandma and great grandfather have been doing that for generations, like that.
yeah.
That's predecession. So those are things
It's
that
normal.
they've been doing. It's normal for us, right? And so
Yeah.
and when I went to Poland on the fields of my uncle, still to this day, like these are huge fields in Poland that still are being planted and created and nurtured. So it's different for a lot of people, right? It's based off of kind of where they're at and what they see as their foundation, which is why I believe that right now is the time, that it's not going to take 100 or even 1,000 years. It's now, and it's in such a, just like what happened in the last 15 years in the evolution of Bitcoin or the computer or the internet. The next decade is going to be a huge layer of infinite exponential growth. And I don't believe it's going to take 100 or 1,000 years. In fact, I believe the next decade is such a imperative part of our responsible roles that this is where the balance comes back, where we do transfer from this old generation to the new generation. And maybe that's in parallel for the first 5, maybe even 10 years, but eventually people are going to see like, wow, they're really abundant in the parallel economy and the new economy, and people are really joyful and sovereign and driving their energy, and eventually it's going to become this like, whoa, what are they doing that we're not? And that curiosity will just naturally adhere and show up. But it's because of people like us that are taking responsibility of building the infrastructure, of not competing, of ignoring what's the fallacies of lies, and just focusing on the building of what's true. And this honest integral integration is the seeds that that we're planting now. And the summertime's coming and it's gonna flourish, because like just like planting these seeds, like I was with my grandma, I'm also planting seeds with investors and entrepreneurs and infrastructure and a lot of things. So although that's becoming just a parallel paradigm or parallel experience, the same thing's going to happen when those seeds that I planted in the ground with grandma a couple weeks ago is going to be the same, and those things are going to come out of the ground and they're going to start to bloom. The same thing is going to happen in the summertime when because of all the seeds that we've planted over the last couple of weeks in different entrepreneurs and organizations and the investors and things like this, the same flourishing plant is going to start to come out. So it's because it's all patterns, right? And so once we realize that these patterns of the seasons are actually in our nature, and we get to, we can't take the farmer you can take the farmer away from the farm, but you can't take the farm out of the farmer, and that becomes where we start to like really grow and evolve and build these seeds from around the world. And this is where I've been planting for the last 7 years around the world. So let's go.
Exactly. So tighten your seat belt because it can be overwhelming. A lot of fruits, a lot of fruits.
Yeah. Well, every time I have this conversation with you guys, I feel like I'm leveled up, like consciously leveled up. Yeah.
Yeah, well, because what it happens is that uh you know, whether we've done the medicine, whether we've spent time with the elders, whether we've integrated the cognitive, there's the integration of cognitive, emotional, and physical mastery. And when you align those three pieces, you're totally connected to the eternal teacher, the divine. And a divinity within us, divine intention means that you do for good. You are willing to do for good, whatever it takes. And there it doesn't become about you, it becomes about the mission that's above and beyond you. And it's now a responsible role that, I'm very grateful to have brothers that are alongside, and specifically Sagitas, because we hold each other to the standard of this responsible role, that we're not here for ourselves, like we're not. And
It
that's
wouldn't be even fun. Like it would not even be so much fun anymore if that would be just about me or you. It's like, it's so cool. It's literally the coolest thing I ever figured it out. Let's
Yeah.
build
I
together, build
literally feel
better.
I'm like currently in between worlds.
Mhm.
Like because not sometimes I'm very conscious of who to share these things with, right? Like when you talk about Bitcoin, when you talk about spirituality, some people are not ready yet. And I can't just talk like natural, right? Like I'm still like 1 foot in a world where some people around me are not ready yet, right? They'll think you crazy or you're with a bunch of
And I
scammers.
mean, like that's very understandable because, like, with the knowledge, we literally time travel because we can start recognize, as Eric mentioned, patterns. So we know what's coming. We don't need to think anymore. We just need to go. We just need to do, what we need to do right now. And the future is already there, and it's beautiful.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's the part, Elaine, is that because you're aware of that you need to meet people where they're at, right? Like the communication is a responsibility. Excuse me. And I think that by asking questions, you open up a possibility for the people that may not be where they could be yet. However, it's not our duty to tell them what they need, because they need to find out that for themselves.
Yeah,
Our
everybody
duty
has
is
their own timetable.
that's right. Our duty is just to ask the questions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Listening, as they say, and fundamentally, what I've been recognizing in Bitcoin community, that everyone so far what I met, they orange pilled themselves. It doesn't
Orange?
matter if some orange pilled.
Oh, orange pilled.
Yeah,
Matrix?
and that,
Yeah.
and
Can
that,
you explain
yeah,
orange
exactly.
pill? Can you explain orange pill
Oh
a little bit
yeah,
better?
yeah. So Bitcoin has a color which orange, and that orange we place in all acts we do. I have a hat collection, and that has orange. So orange pilling is like literally giving someone a pill of Bitcoin, and if somebody swallows that pill, there is no way back. Kind of, like because there is no way back. It's a matrix for sure.
Yeah.
It's breakout. But fundamentally, like even if I was one that encouraged Eric to come to Madeira, he orange pill himself. he consumed all information he needed. He consumed everything he needed. He did his homework there on the spot to get it. And that would be never my intention, and would be never even, you know, my wish, because I fundamentally I think it's individual journey, because Bitcoin for everyone means completely different. That's the point. And we, you know, like, and it's always changing. One day is energy, another day is integrity, another day is trust, another day is community, another day is what the fuck is going on.
Yeah.
So it's ever evolving, kind of seems.
And Eric, you just kind of got into it recently, right?
Yep. Well, as I mentioned, so like because I've been at such a deep level spiritually, and my consciousness was so in its integrity and connected to something so much greater. I've been guided, you know, like we are all guided. The thing is that I became extremely conscious of my guidance. And so when we're aware of the guidance, you start to surrender to things that most people can't see. And when you're completely aware of, and you can hear, see it, understand it, and it speaks to you, you're allowing a different level of integration to come through. The unseen becomes the seen. And so for me, because I've done all of that internal work, it started to be very clear for me of the path. And because I was invited by another person to go to Portugal, and at the same time, maybe not even a day later, Sagitas had reached out to me, it was clear that the divine was asking me to go to Portugal. And then because of what had happened with regards to where I was financially and how I was using all my fiat to invest into this mission and investing in it without any return from the mind, right, from the fiat side, the divine had become divine intervention, and as a result shown me, hold on, you are now stepping into what Napoleon Hill calls the divine economy. And I didn't know that at the time. However, once I learned and went in and got curious about what Bitcoin and what it stands for in terms of principles, ethics, integrity, and alignment to the highest level of intelligence, then it started to all make sense to me that divine was guiding me to pay attention to this vehicle that I needed to be a part of, because I had a responsible role in bringing that economy and bringing that new economy and making it certain that it becomes attached to our collective network, our collective consciousness. And because of my internal beliefs and the structure and the soundness of how it was just very clear for me what I needed to do. And now I'm moving in that nature with absolute certainty because of, again, my ability to see the things that most people may think are esoteric or very meta or very, however, the one thing that I have a very strong awareness of is, although I'm a very big thinker and I can see the things in the divine and I can understand it and hear it, I'm also extremely grounded and extremely straightforward and extremely able to communicate at the level of action steps. What's the next thing that we need to do? And I allow myself to listen to a lot of people like yourself, Elaine, and others that are extremely goal oriented, and they can help me and all of us integrate the next stage of what we need to do, because it's not just about one of us, it's about bridging all of us together to drive into that area of distinction and focus on that shared purpose. And as a result, we all collectively create by the people, for the people, to the people. And this is what the divine wants us to cultivate and create and ground, not by one person, by all of us.
Awesome. You have a last name for a reason. Balance.
Yeah. Yeah, like, and this is fascinating because the more you start to understand the responsibility of words and language and energy, the more you start to understand, wow, that is actually our divine response ability to respond. And when you have the ability to respond, you're no longer reacting to life, you're moving with devotion.
My last name in Chinese means peace.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So
how does that feels for you? How do you feel that?
How do I feel that?
Yeah, like how does it feel to know that your last name is Peace?
Well, maybe I should be more peaceful, right? It's actually, the way it's written is like a woman under a roof, a house. The Chinese character literally is a woman under a roof. So it's peaceful. Like you feel safe inside that. Yeah. But I'm curious, like so Napoleon Hill was like in the 70s, right? And he already knew about the divine economy?
Yep. Not only him, but so did Andrew Carnegie. So Andrew Carnegie actually was very, very much about the divine economy and creating peace on earth. He worked with Teddy Roosevelt and wanted Teddy to really integrate peace. However, because of monetary and misalignment, it didn't work out the way that Andrew Carnegie had wanted it to. Andrew Carnegie, he, as many people might know, he left his riches. He was the richest man on the planet. He left it to nobody. He gave it away, all of it.
Yeah. You know, it's giving me chills because I studied at Carnegie Mellon. Yeah, that's the school he created, right? Andrew Carnegie and the Mellon family created. Yeah.
Right. So his integration and his, because he was an avid reader and because he was a man of tremendous integrity, that's why he created the Carnegie Library. That's why he's really believed in education. That's why he really believed in making all of these things come to life. And he lived in a beautiful castle in I forget the castle's name right now, but it's
Pittsburgh,
still there.
right?
Huh?
Pittsburgh, is that Pittsburgh?
No, in the UK.
UK.
So anyways, but like that place was like a castle for him, and his schedule was like morning prayer, tea, prayer, connection, meeting with people, prayer, hymns before bed. Like that was his schedule, and so he was a very devoted man to his belief system. And to me, this is a man of tremendous responsibility. And so because Napoleon Hill was also like a student of all of these great leaders, he was able to capture parallels. He was able to capture patterns. And so he was able to express a lot of the things of how we want to now integrate. And so he actually shares in the most important part of what we need to do to really cultivate more peace within the planet. And so it's funny you bring up peace as your last name, because there's a little, and I'll send you a picture of the page of how to cultivate peace, what we need to do, and what actors we need to have to make sure that we can share in that dramatic sense of how to allow more people to see the truth, but using the actors that they've believed in for such a long period of time. And that means, whether it's, the United States government, the Congress, whatever that looks like, but having them speak the words of peace is actually what will allow us to bring more peace, because the only people that don't want peace are the people that profit by war.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so
Oh,
go ahead.
Oh, I'm just thinking.
You're too funny. You're too cute.
Go ahead.
Love showers. Love showers. Hey!
I was just saying, Napoleon Hill is like Tony Robbins, where I think he was commissioned by Andrew Carnegie to interview all these people, right? And find the patterns, right? That's how he came up with the book Think and Go Rich.
Well, there's many others, and like his book Law of Success is an even more deeper awareness of the responsible role that he took. And if you study Napoleon Hill, you can start to understand the patterns between all these leaders. But then when you go deeper and you start to identify the patterns of Emerson, Plato, Socrates, Christ, Buddha, right? You start to now integrate. But the thing is you see, most people, they don't learn, or they read a book and then they don't go deeper. They hear about Socrates, or they hear about Plato, or they hear about Marcus Aurelius, or they hear about Christ or Buddha or Emerson, or even Friedrich Nietzsche, but they don't go deeper. And so my devotion was about learning about all of these people. And so why was I so capable and willing? Well, because I was curious enough to say, okay, well, if this great thinker is seeing a pattern between all of these great thinkers, I'm going to learn about all of these other great thinkers, really get an understanding of their patterns, and then go deeper down the rabbit hole of that thought process. And so you see, the thought process was about understanding the minds and hearts of these great believers, these great leaders, these great thinkers. And so instead of me, because I was so fascinated by humans, that's what I started to do. I started to interview them on my podcast. I started to learn about them and read about the people that no longer live with us. And that is what, to me, was the biggest thing, is now I recognize the patterns of behavior from centuries, millennia. And when you become, as you know, when you can start to recognize patterns, you can start to utilize those patterns. But once you start utilizing those patterns, you become a master of creating patterns, of new ones. And that's what Henry Ford, he dubbed the master architect.
I'm gonna watch your podcast. And we're doing one tomorrow. So.
Yeah, I get to be on your podcast tomorrow. I'm really excited.
Elena, you're also doing podcasts.
Yes. I started it like earlier this year. Yeah. But the original intention is like I'm from Asia, right? And for the past 20 years, I was helping a lot of Western companies in Asia. And what I noticed is a lot of cultural differences. like what fascinates me is like when you look at culture, it could be right in one culture but totally wrong in another culture. So there's no right or wrong per se, like you know. And I think much of today's conflict is really because the internet has brought us together all at once. Like anything happens immediately, like the whole world knows about it, right? And it's people not realizing that like we're all one, right? But then because of all these cultural differences, it's creating a lot of miscommunication or misalignment. Yeah. So my podcast is bringing it to the ground is like how when companies grow globally, like how do they navigate the local differences, right? Because when Uber came to Hong Kong, China, it didn't work, right? Because it brought the whole thing about Uber is cardless, right? You don't need your credit card, you don't need to pay cash, right? But back then, China people in China don't have credit cards, so and because they weren't willing to adapt, then it didn't really work out, right? So I'm just fascinated about how like cultures plays a really important role sometimes, you know. And I'm always like in between cultures almost because I help companies bridge that gap, right? And same
That's
thing
pretty
when
cool
a
mission.
Chinese company comes out of China. There's one company where it's a trading app, right? And the name of the company is called Moo. And when we interviewed the Australian people, they're like Moo means a big dress for a pregnant woman, right? you know,
Okay.
and they were totally unaware of that. So I just find these things really interesting. Yeah. So the podcast was to interview investors, tech startups or entrepreneurs, like how do they, when they expand their company, like what are their war stories or what lessons or learnings that they have. Yeah.
Cool.
And Eric will hear about your mission and vision to build the
I'm looking forward to
And all
watch
the
that,
war
so.
stories.
Yeah, all the war stories too. Yeah. And it's funny, like, because some people are my friends, I know them as a friend, but when you really interview them, like all these things comes up that I never would have known,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, well,
So
I
you're
think
busy.
that's the thing is because sometimes uh when we're asking questions, we discover way more.
Yeah.
Because we're integrating an even more thoughtful discussion. So it gives us capacity to then truly hear them.
Right. So I'm looking forward to tomorrow's
Me too.
session. I hope we have enough time because we only have 1 hour then, but we can
If like you said, if you feel like we need to go and expand, then we can have a second part.
yeah, we can
to
do
it.
part 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Exciting times.
So are you,
How was the
Eric?
halving? Sorry, I wanted to ask about the halving. Did you celebrate it? Did it means anything for you? But
Oh, me? Or
yeah,
yeah, we
for
had a
you, for
Bitcoin
Eric.
halving party in Vancouver. So there was
You
like a bunch.
did.
Yeah, there was an event. So there was a mining machine powering a hot tub next to it.
So cool.
Yeah. And I met couples who just live on Bitcoin and they travel the world. Like they sold their house. They went to El Salvador and all they spent was Bitcoin. It was just interesting to meet people who are at different stages, right? Yeah. And of course there are some people who knows nothing about Bitcoin. They're so curious why it's worth so much and they're just coming to learn about it. Yeah. And then they create Bitcoin beer. They're
Yeah.
like the label, right? Bitcoin beer, and like it's just commemorating the halving event, right?
So cool. Limited edition.
Yeah, limited edition, yeah. But yeah, so I'm trying to meet more people in the Bitcoin area here as well. There's also like every Monday Bitcoiners coffee in the mornings as well in Vancouver.
Nice. In local, like live?
Yeah, face to face.
Oh, it's sweet.
Face to face. Yeah. So, well, I think more and more people are getting to the space and just figuring out from each other. But like I said, there's a huge spectrum, right? Some people are just Bitcoiners. Some people also invest in all the other coins. So it's depending on where you are, right?
It's a trip. It's a trip. One or another way, it's a trip. Like it's an interesting process, and that's one of the reasons why I really enjoy now going to Bitcoin meetups, because it's so cool to hear the stories of transformation. Like it's just like the stories is just incredible. Like orange pilling stories, how like people discover Bitcoin, aha moment, because we all have an aha moment.
Yeah.
It's just so cool, and very, very inspiring to hear and laugh together, and yeah, and share. I feel
Well,
very energized by that.
my aha moment was like, because I was following Michael Saylor, right? And he was like, his company was worth 500 million, like what, 2021 or something. And then he put 400 million into Bitcoin. And I was like, what? And I'm like, if this guy can believe in this so much, like, because I think he believes that no matter how he works, how hard he worked, it's it if his money is in fiat, it's just gonna go down the drain, right?
Yeah.
And then within a year, he became a billionaire or something. It's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating to listen to him, the way he thinks and the way he sees. It's really. I was listening to a podcast with him about how he tells stories, how he was orange pilling his company to do that move. It's pretty cool. He's
Must be hard
tactical,
though, like, because not everybody is on the same
Yeah,
page.
he needed to put everyone literally on to do the homework. He would send emails. He would keep everyone accountable. To check if they watched, if they did the homework, and then they would have a conversations together. And then he would have a conversations with all board, one on one, and like he needed to educate everyone before the move. So he put his own money, and then he needed to put the company. So he was literally on the mission to bring that awareness to the whole team, because it's something you cannot force. Like people has to figure it out themselves.
Yeah, it's like evangelizing.
It is,
Evangelize.
it is, and that's again, it's a trippy one, like, right, to become evangelist for Bitcoin, which is confused with crypto, and like, it can be over.
Yeah,
It
and then
can
people
be,
think like you're trying to scam them, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely, there is that component there.
Mm.
It's a funny adventure. It's a really funny adventure. I love
Yeah,
it.
I
I
think
love it so much.
yeah, when you try to convince people to put money in Bitcoin, that's the hard thing. But when you give Bitcoin, then it's not hard because they don't lose anything, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, that's, so for me, it's like that, it feels just my way of doing, and that's responsibility calling. It's like somehow to find the way through the back doors, how to present it so the people can start looking at it if we
Yeah.
want to.
I had a friend, he's a doctor. I gave him $10 worth of Bitcoin.
Oh, no.
And then he tried cashing it out on an ATM machine, and like it was so hard for him. He's like, you need to be a PhD to do this. And like he was kind of scared about Bitcoin, I guess. So he actually chose to invest in Bitcoin mining instead of the real Bitcoin. But yeah, like different people just have different levels of risk tolerance, I guess.
Well, I think that
So
this
there
is
is
one
this
of the things that the investor, like I was talking with from Dubai, he's like, what you're providing, even an investor in the mining, is like, even though if they don't get the Bitcoin,
Uh-huh.
they don't understand the Bitcoin, they understand the feasibility of what electricity can be created from gas, and it becomes an energy product. And so
Uh-huh.
it helps people that are maybe slowly transitioning to get involved into the kind of the Bitcoin network without necessarily needing to get involved in Bitcoin. They could get involved in either receiving as investors back Bitcoin or fiat. And he says that you open up a new door the way that kind of you're positioning it. So I think it's a slow, like it could be a way that these investors can transition from Bitcoin mining into Bitcoin.
Right. Um, but it's still based on fiat. And what do you think about that? And it's not
Right.
self-custody.
Right.
It's a
Well,
transition.
what I'm
Yeah.
saying is that if a person is interested in the business model, right, and sees
Mhm.
the dynamics and is still wanting to get back fiat from the investment, then that's fine. But they have the opportunity to get Bitcoin. And so although they are investing and they may not necessarily have the alignment or understanding, but they believe in it to kind of get their feet wet, eventually they're going to transition to Bitcoin because they're going to see that the return on investment is so much better in Bitcoin. And so it gives them at least the idea of giving them the logical certainty that then
Yeah.
eventually shows up in the emotional side.
Right. True. So how like when the 21 million is all mined, uh the miners still get rewarded by the fees, right? And but because of the halving, it gets lower and lower, right? The
Yeah.
reward gets lower, right?
Yes.
Then
You
how
mean the reward, or so there's two different parts, like what I understand so far, but it's also needs everything. Please verify. So distribution is one part that miners are getting, and another part is fees. And what I heard, and that again, like I took it from Noster, that after this halving, miners start making 2.5 more based on fees for some reason. I don't know why. But once the Bitcoin is distributed, that's I think what we're gonna do as humanity. We're just gonna turn it off because we're not gonna need it at that point.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
That's what I think.
I think that I think a little bit different. I think that there's still going to be a secure part of it because the energy is still going to exchange on the energy network. So as a result, even though the energy will be coming from the ground, it's still going to be an exchange of energy. So that energy from the ground, or what they're pouring out of the ground and transitioning into electricity, uh, it's going to continue. It's just going to be used in terms of AI now. So it can then translate in terms of artificial intelligence, and that energy, like those data centers, will be able to then be integrated with AI, and that generative AI will evolve. So it will be a way for it to exchange and move energy across the planet using these different data centers. And so by being directly correlated with the energy source that comes out of the ground or out of the sky or out of the wind or out of the sun, we start to create this ongoing circular network where everything is based off of potential or energy. And that exchange then becomes secured by these data centers or nodes around the world.
Okay. Interesting.
Because that
One really cool.
sorry, bro. That securitization is so important for our future generations, right? By securing the network, right? we are then allowing our future generations to actually follow their passion.
Right. Oh, about the Bitcoin halving. Actually, in the Tony group, people were trying to guess what's the price when Bitcoin halves, right? So I actually used a dowsing to ask the question, and I got pretty close. Yeah, it was around 65K, right? When it halved. Yeah.
Was it a competition or just like?
Yeah, it was a competition. Yeah, one guy, I think rewarded the person who guessed closest, like some, I forgot what, but yeah.
Yeah, doesn't matter. Yeah.
Nice, love it, love it.
One cool fact about distribution, I went all the way to 2140, and that every 10 minutes is gonna be distributed only one Satoshi, which is a pretty cool fact. So 210,000 blocks, which is Satoshis, is gonna be distributed. 210,000 Satoshis to distribute is gonna take 4 years, the last cycle. And the halving is continue until the Bitcoin cannot be divided. So one Satoshi cannot be divided.
5 or something, right? I think the
Excuse
last.
me?
I think it's year 2045 or something like that. Like what?
2140, 42, somewhere there.
Oh, really?
So
We still have 100 years to go.
100 and
really?
120.
But I thought already 18 or 19 million is mined out of 21. It still takes so long.
That's what is how his name Sailor is pointing out, that the next, I think, like, what is 10% of it, like mining, not the 10%, like, I don't remember, but next 10 years is it's kind of a gold rush. That's why he calls, because after that is mining is gonna become less and less rewarding as a distribution is gonna be less rewarding.
Right.
But also, like, if one Satoshi is gonna be distributed per block in 2100, so 140, then it means one Satoshi value is gonna be pretty valuable.
Yeah. What do you think about the? I mean, I think it's still a concentration of wealth in a small percentage of people, right? It's just a shift of wealth. Because right now it's still like the number of people holding most Bitcoin is like a small percentage, right?
As far as I know.
How does it make it more equal?
Well, it becomes part of the business ownership. So what it is that it's a responsibility, just like anything, it's required to use as an exchange. We can't just store it as a value, right? I mean, at the beginning of time, when they used gold as a store of value, and a peasant didn't use the exchange of gold, it didn't mean that the gold didn't exist. But eventually, it started to get put into the society, right? And so this is our responsibility as business leaders, as business owners, to start utilizing it, first of all, within our balance sheets, and then integrating it among exchange of business and medium of exchange, and then paying our employees with it. And the more of us start to do this at a technological advanced organizations, the more of us start to do this then within a regular sense of business. Because if we start to exchange it like as a source of commerce, now we start to directly affect the economy, the new economy. And so people can start to now say, okay, well, I'm accepting Bitcoin and fiat. And now you can choose. And once people start to do that, we're going to see a huge layer of mass adoption, because we make that as an infrastructure a lot more simpler within the technology industry. And we start to adapt that level of nature within the tech space. We're going to inspire, because technology is coming, right? Like, I mean, it's already here. It's not coming. But like, as a result, that's going to affect the mom and pop shops or the law firms or the accounting firms, and they're going to start to accept it. And once there's that level of adoption onto the balance sheets, people are then also going to be exchanging at the store, whether they go to the grocery store or not. And that is how it becomes adopted by more and more people.
I mean, practically, right now, do accountants know how to deal with this? You know?
Well, it's not about if they do know how or if they don't know how. It's about giving them the responsibility to get into it. And if we need to put it on the balance sheet, like, I have tons of friends that I went to university for accounting, that they can integrate that and learn how to make sure that the balance sheet and the Bitcoin is on the balance sheet. And so, I mean, look how many organizations are already doing it. Tesla, BlackRock, Mara, MicroStrategy. So obviously they're, I mean, not obviously, but it's happening. It's on the balance sheet. So therefore there is a way to integrate it so that it is being used as an asset rather than a liability.
Right. Yeah. Well, it takes some time, right? for the transition.
Well, all we need to do is just sit with them. All we need to do is just sit with them and have a conversation. The transition doesn't need to be time consuming. It just needs to be guided and supported.
Right. And how do you, you know, in the Bitcoin space, everybody's talking about hodling, right?
Yep.
How do you make the case for people to not hodl?
Well, we bring the SMEs, the 50 million, $100 million organizations to start using it. And so we encourage a new nature of exchange so that there is no hodling, so that the hodling becomes, okay, hold on, like, this is how we start to exchange. Whether Bitcoin is going up or down, it's actually not about the up or down, is because if we're still valuing it based off of a fiat system, then we're still thinking of it as a fiat. If we're actually valuing it for its true nature, which is Bitcoin and what it represents in terms of energy, then we're using it in that case. And so that as a responsibility, we have to stop thinking of hodling it and holding on to it, because the thing that we hold on to is actually the thing that will break us. We have to allow it to flourish, to grow, to expand. That's what energy wants to do. It needs to expand. It can't be held on to tight. And if Bitcoin represents energy, energy needs to grow.
So one thing I want to land there, that is, it's a circular economy. Bitcoin is a closed loop. So there is no point of hodling it. It's rather the opposite. It's like what Eric is saying. It's like, and I think hodling is more like a state of development, personal development, when the person is in hodling state, and that's nothing wrong. It's just transitioning into something else, whatever it's gonna be. But I think the hodl is it's. And by the way, how you were asking, how do we do that? It's again by walking the talk and inspiring, presenting opportunities to use Bitcoin, because 19.6 million is already mined, so it's already in circulation. and
Yeah.
it's very very huge market cap. So the community is super wealthy. What's the point? What's the point of holding it? And there is no possibility to how to say, to lose it, because it's circular economy.
Right.
So it's about distribution. It's about distributing and finding the ways how to distribute, how to decentralize it even more.
Yeah.
Literally in communities.
Yeah, I learned from the people I met at the party, the halfway party. Like people are using some Lightning wallet, right? Bitcoin Lightning wallet. Yeah. So it's I learned that it's more like a Starbucks card where if you use it that day that you bought that you sold, then the price fluctuation will not be that great, right? Unlike the how many $85 million pizza that happened 10 years ago with that guy who bought the pizza with Bitcoin.
But without that pizza, we still maybe would be 5 years back. Like that's the point. If he would be hodling, he wouldn't buy a pizza, then it would not move the world where it's supposed to move. So hodling is it's a yes and it's good for some, but for some is like there's no point, I guess, already.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think the last thing I just want to end off with is like, it's just like any material thing, right? Like if we hold on to it for dear life,
yeah,
which is what HODL stands for.
Yeah.
Hold on for dear life.
Yeah.
Then we're not really living. We're actually so stuck in a component of this materialistic expression where we can't take any of the Bitcoin with us. We can't take any of the material component with us. We are here to give our energy. We're not here to hold on to it. We are here to express, to share, to give, to grow. And that is what our energy is here to create, not destroy. And I think if we learn from our predecessors that if we're constantly destroying, we're gonna create, a layer of disempowerment. And it's like good times create weak people. Weak people create stronger times. Strong people, they create what is necessary to really cultivate here. And at the end of the day, I believe that that's like the strength within all of us will start to be cultivated as a result of letting go to what we think that we need to hold on to, because that's true surrender.
Absolutely.
So
yeah. So
yeah,
wealth
it's
within.
the perfect merge of spirituality and wealth here in this conversation. Yeah.
I like that we go all directions. No limits in this call. That's a permissionless society example. Like, fuck it, let's go. How can we bridge Bitcoin and spirituality?
Yeah.
I love you all.
Thank you so much.
It was amazing to connect with you both, and I'm excited for all this week. This week is going to be a big week, so I'm grateful.
Okay. All right.
Much
Have
love.
a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Ciao.